Okay, we're live again. Now my question is, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? What do you think, Rob? Can you hear me? Oh, okay. Yay! Okay, we have sound. Happy New Year, everybody. Thanks for bearing with me. Hopefully, everybody who was on the last call, we had like 250 people who had gotten on in the first minute, and hopefully they'll find us over here. We're here. It's New Year's Day. I don't know why that happened, and I it's funny when something like that happens, it's so tempting to get all dysregulated and go, "Oh my god, the sound, and what are we gonna do?" And uh, you know what you do? You just carry on. You just you just tell all your friends on YouTube, "Hey, I'm starting over." Come over and you start talking again. So here's what's going on today. It's New Year's Day, 2023. No, it's 2024. I'm gonna do this. It takes me usually like 5 months to start remembering what year it is. But I'm actually really excited about 2024 because for me, this is the year that my book comes out. And I've had this like kind of like intense week between Christmas and New Year's because I've been working like all day, all day, all day, finishing the second draft, sending it to my editor at Hay House a little later today. And it'll be her thing to work on for a week. And I'll work on making new YouTube videos. So, anyway, I'm really looking forward to this afternoon, though. I'm going to stop after my husband watches what is it, Liverpool, Rob? Is it Liverpool today? I don't get to watch it. I'll be finishing the draft. And then we're gonna go take a walk outside, like in the outside of the world and not just in my office. So it's my big day. So welcome, everybody. This is great. We've already got 200 people back here. So Rob is gonna be fielding questions, and if you put the word "question" at the beginning of your chat post, he will grab that and he will organize some questions for me to answer. And here's what he's going to be choosing is ones that he knows I'm pretty good at answering, ones that are not the same as something that I already answered, and ones that are, posed as a question, as a nice, simple question. It's interesting. I did a video last Monday that was super popular. I think it's already like at 200,000 views in a week, and it was about the urge to isolate. A lot of you here, maybe you saw that one. And the urge to isolate video, I think the YouTube algorithm like sent it out to people who didn't know about this channel before. And we got a lot of people who are going through very heavy loneliness right now. And so if you're here, I'm so glad you're here. Those of you who are new to the channel who came because you saw that we know something about that, and we do. Feeling disconnected from people is like a natural part of having childhood PTSD. It's almost universal for all of us. Part of it is neurological. A lot of that we can heal. And then part of it is social. I don't know about you, but I grew up in a house where you couldn't really bring people over. It was so messy and chaotic, and you never knew if some drunk adult was going to come walking in the room. And so I had to teach myself like how to be a social person. And I'm not introverted, many people are. I don't have autism, many people do, but I really didn't get the memo on how you're supposed to act around people. So we talk about that a lot here. We also talk about relationships and and the sort of tough situations that we get ourselves into because we have these attachment wounds that make it so hard to go slow. We end up kind of attaching to people very quickly. Then we have a hard time getting out of relationships. So you can ask me about that. And we talk about neurological dysregulation, which is the thing that hardly anybody knows about. If you say dysregulation, most people think you're talking about emotional dysregulation, and that is totally a part of childhood PTSD. But neurological dysregulation is the thing that when you go into stress, when you go into any kind of like even micro trauma reaction, your brain waves, your body systems, they start to go out of whack and you can feel really discombobulated, uncoordinated, spaced out, or things are just sort of coming too strong. Your heart races, you feel too scared, too in love, too angry, it just comes out. So that's another thing that we work on here. And the first thing that I want to bring to your attention is the daily practice technique. If you're new here, like I've been getting when we have a lot of new people as we do right now because of that popular video, a lot of people will say, "Yeah, but what do I do? You're telling me what it's like, but you never tell us what to do." And it's like, "Oh, I watch some more videos and you'll be so sick of me telling me. do the daily practice techniques. And this is the twin set of techniques that I've been using for almost 30 years now. Next month will be 30 years since I learned it. And it saved my life the night I learned it. It immediately started to calm my dysregulation and my sort of inner freak out that I was going through at the time. And then it's allowed me to have just better perception, better self-awareness, better empathy towards other people, stronger ability to stand up for myself. Like all the things I need were inside of me, but it was too chaotic in my mind with the complex PTSD symptoms. Now, 30 years ago, nobody knew what that was. People just thought I was stressed or, upset. But I have childhood PTSD. And also, if you're new here, yes, I use those terms kind of interchangeably. Complex PTSD is the kind of PTSD that comes from chronic, ongoing exposure to stress. And usually that starts in childhood, not always. It could be if you were in a war, if you're living as a refugee, if you're living in a really dangerous situation. But here we pretty much focus on the wounds of early trauma, which do affect your neurological development, and not always in the nicest ways. And we work on healing that. We work on healing the neurology, healing the behaviors, healing the thinking patterns. Because a lot of what happens when you have complex PTSD, childhood PTSD, there's this original trauma that messes you up. But then as you grow up, you start to re-traumatize yourself through these like trauma-driven thinking, behaviors, choices. And I always felt like it wasn't very easy to get help with that. Like when I used to get professional help, they'd be very quick to say, oh, it's not your fault. But like, it's not enough to say it's not my fault. It's like, well, what is it coming from then, if not me? And it's like, it's a neurological injury. That's what we know now. Okay. I just glanced at the chat and people were asking about pre-ordering the book. It's not possible yet. It certainly will be by summer. And I'm going to be doing, we'll be so organized here. We want to pre-sell 10,000 books before it is released officially on October 1st. And when you do that, you become an instant bestseller. They're counting that first day of release. And I think we've got the people here to do it. All right. Also, before I get into the questions, I wanted to tell you, if you don't know this yet, it is our end of year sale right now. And right now you can get $152 off a year of membership. Nothing else is on sale right now. It's the whole Megillah, the membership. And if you want to do that right now, what you get access to all my courses. You can come to all my webinars for free for the whole year. The next one's going to be January 23rd, and it's going to be about under earning. So many people responded to that. I'm going to go right in with a webinar on that. And so you get to do that. You get to come to every 2-week group coaching calls with me just for members. And you get an invitation to be part of our secret Facebook group, which is a pretty amazing community where they have peer-led daily practice calls several times a day. There's a lot of support. You can find buddies to do your daily practice with. And so the price is, what is it? $347 US for a whole year of membership. Honestly, I think that's a fantastic deal. And this is a good time to do it. It's the lowest price we've ever had for it. And we really would love you to be a member. This is where people connect. I think the community aspect is, I know that a lot of you are not like ready to deal with an online community. I know that. But if you want to like be with other people who are using these tools, the daily practice, my healing childhood PTSD course, my dating course, my connection boot camp, my dysregulation boot camp. We have like trauma informed yoga. We have a book club. We have just a lot of community oriented activities. When you have good tools and you have a community, you can do so much. You can do so much healing that you could never do before. The isolation just kills you. In a weird way, the pandemic kind of helped us figure that out. So I'm really glad you're here. And I was going to say, if you need a cheaper option to get into the membership, you can come in monthly. It's like $59 US. And wherever you are in the world, you can buy it you can come in on PayPal or Stripe. So that's totally doable. So anyway, we'd love to have you there. You can sign up and get started right away today if you choose to. So let's get started on questions. I think I gave the etiquette in the call that we started that we had to stop. But here's the etiquette. Please be kind to each other in the comments. Please don't be graphic about sex, violence, abuse, anything like that. Definitely nothing about terminating our lives. We don't talk about that here. It's totally messes up everybody's like self-regulation. So we're kind and considerate for that. And so if you would be kind there, and Rob is moderating, and if you have a question, you can throw it in there and he might see it, but he'll keep giving you links. Okay, so let's get to some questions. Carmen Sandiego. I get it. Carmen Sandiego says, is running late to appointments associated with CPTSD and really wanting to isolate rather than go out in the world? Oh, that's a good question. Well, here's what I can tell you from my experience. Running late, first of all, is a trigger for so many of us. Like having to hurry at all is a trigger. But I had a huge problem with running late for a long time. It's taken me years to get people to realize that I don't do it anymore. I mean, I'm very rarely late, but I think what it was in the past, I did it a lot when I was a single mom. I was always trying to pack in more work before it was time to pick up the kids from daycare. And then I would pick them up at the last minute, but I used to get paid hourly for work that I was doing at home. And so I just got into this mentality of like, I just always have to push everything till the last minute. And I didn't really change that until I realized how much it was stressing me out to do that, that it was causing me like, a whole little package of dysregulation. I just go neurologically dysregulated from the hurrying, and then I wasn't getting anything done anyway. And so I learned to just like give myself some lead time for the most part. I've never been a perfectionist. I'm not perfect about anything. And there's that. But the other thing that I also, in my daily practice, as I started figuring out, I realized that I had resentment. And there's this resentful kind of crabby t-shirt I've seen like on internet stores before. And it says, sorry, I was late. I didn't really want to be here. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of it too. And so when my CPTSD symptoms are active, this is probably true for a lot of you guys too, is I'm kind of in resistance to whatever people are going to demand of me. And I don't really want to see them. It brings up anxiety that I'm going to see them. And for whatever reason, I think I was like a divorced mom for 9 years, because I could never really compete with the moms who had it all together and had a partner out there earning the money. And I was comparing myself, and I was always running ragged, and I also was having major life problems, that sometimes people or the whole school would find out about. Like that I had a boyfriend who turned out to have a serious drug problem. Like when people at school find out about that, they don't want your kids to play with their kids. And oh, it still hurts me to talk about. So anyway, these are all like triggers for me that have calmed down a lot, largely because I'm more regulated now, but also I've straightened out my life problems. There's a lot less to get triggered about when you straighten out your life problems. So I have a really solid husband, and he's somebody I can feel proud of everywhere I go. I count my blessings every day that I don't have to take my kids to school and deal with the school world anymore. I don't know why. That was always just kind of triggery for me. I like to be with my people, which is you. This is where I feel the most at home. So good question, Carmen. Thank you. All right. Aviana asks, how does one go about distinguishing between CPTSD, anxiety, autism, ADHD, or other behavioral profiles that resemble each other symptom-wise? So, yeah. Okay. So first of all, so therapists won't. So first of all, I'm not a diagnosis person. First of all, I'm not qualified to diagnose anybody. I'm not a therapist or doctor or anything, so I really stay away from that. Sometimes I might have my opinion about something, which is as good as anybody else's. I think we put too much emphasis on diagnosis, and I know from studies that even people with PhDs are so inconsistent in how they diagnose symptoms. It depends so much, like, do they even know what these things are? Are they fully aware of the differences in symptoms? Are the official symptom definitions up to date or real? Not so much. And it turns out that there's so much variation in that, and when it gets to the point of what experts believe you should do about your various diagnoses, their opinions are so different as to be meaningless. Now, I think it's so great that we have doctors and therapists to help us, but this diagnosis thing, it's really uneven. And I see it all the time in comments. It comes in. People have been told all kinds of wacky things about what was wrong with them. But let's talk about those things. So first of all, autism is very, very different. Autism is something that you're born with. CPTSD is something that is like an injury that happens after you're born. I guess you could argue it happens in the womb. But anyway, they're two completely different things. They do have a couple of symptoms that are similar, which is feeling kind of disconnected from people, having trouble reading the room, emotional dysregulation for some people. So there can be similarities, but I talk a lot with like Paul Micallef from Autism on the Inside, great YouTube channel if you are on the spectrum. And a lot of people with autism have CPTSD. Quite a few people with CPTSD have autism, but they are definitely two different things. People with autism, because of their differences, often got bullied as kids. Their parents weren't very accepting, punished them too much. So they end up, getting the trauma injuries that can develop CPTSD. So there's that. Now, ADHD, I think there's more and more talk that it is overdiagnosed. It was super overdiagnosed during the pandemic, and anybody could get the Adderall online. And guess what? So many people had ADHD that they ran out of Adderall. Probably, I've heard from people who know, researchers, a lot of things that have been diagnosed ADHD are probably just CPTSD. So who knows? We don't know, but I'll tell you what is whatever it is with you, whatever it is, pay attention to the symptoms. My method of healing is all about the symptoms. I'm always trying to teach people, take your focus off the past, take it off of what happened. You have no influence on that anymore. Like we were all sort of like trained, and so were all the professionals. It's all about talking about what happened to you. And knowing what happened to you does give some answers about why you have CPTSD, and it can validate a little bit. Okay, so there's a reason for this strange behavior that I have. And that's all good, but it knowing what happened doesn't actually heal CPTSD. CPTSD requires working on today's symptoms in present time in yourself. And so you'll always hear me, people write a letter and they're like, "What do I do about my boyfriend? I think he has CPTSD." And then they'll tell me like this whole set of information about what's wrong with the boyfriend and nothing about themselves. And I'm like, I think what I'm hearing here is codependence. You're so focused on somebody else and you're out of touch with yourself. So I always emphasize focus on your own symptoms now. When you can heal your own dysregulation, when you can heal your own self-defeating behaviors, when you can learn to connect better with other people and like hear them, sense how they're feeling, express yourself better, your life will improve so much and other people will benefit from having a regulated, functional person in their midst. When we're dysregulated, our dysregulation leaks all over everybody. Our nervous systems talk to each other. If you have children and you want them to be less dysregulated, get more regulated yourself. So whenever people are like, "Can I get somebody else to use the daily practice to start getting more neurologically and emotionally regulated?" I'll be like, I mean, I've almost gotten nobody to do the daily practice except via YouTube, where you have this nice buffer where you don't have to deal with me. You can just sort of like watch the video. You can take the free course and just decide, and nobody's going to hassle you or pressure you or judge you or anything. Like that's a nice way to learn. When people push it on us and be like, "Honey, you've got to learn this," it just it just doesn't tend to work. And so with kids, I will say you can get kids to do it, but I'm sort of digressing from the question. I'm digressing from the question. It's always a good thing to talk about though. Um, Rob, have you you probably have put the daily practice link. There it is. I see the daily practice link in the chat. If you haven't taken that, it's free. You can learn this very specific writing technique and a simple meditation technique. You do them twice a day and then just get back to me and tell me how it changes you. We got thousands of people in our community who are doing this and they're having an experience similar to what I had. Like it very quickly starts to help them re-regulate and from a re-regulated place change their lives. So I really encourage you to try it. Yay. Okay. Let's see. Coming back to the questions here. Mech Blank says, "How do I keep going when I experience what feels like a huge setback? I really thought I was doing better, but I had a total meltdown last night and I just feel hopeless again." I hear you. Yeah, it just comes with the territory. One thing that really helps is when you have friends who have CPTSD and you can tell them what you just told me and they can tell you what I'm telling you, which is I know it is so hard to get it right all the time. Sometimes you're tired, you're overwhelmed, you feel threatened, and it just gets you. It just gets you. The symptoms just like break through, and there you are lashing out again, or making a scene, or leaving the party without telling anybody you left. Just something that you feel a little embarrassed about later, that your PTSD couldn't handle the situation gracefully. So it's gonna happen until it doesn't happen. But that's why we have the daily practice. We have the daily practice both to prime our nervous system so that we can hang out with people, and then also to deal with it, all the shame and remorse when we make mistakes. Because for us, like getting feeling ashamed or like, oh, it was just why was I such an idiot? And now I've ruined everything. It's like we will take that feeling and we will make it this big. And when it's this big, you can't think, you can't function. If you apologize to people, it's just going to come out like BS, right? When you're re-regulated, you can think, you can start to understand, here's what happened, here's what I needed, here's where I could have done something differently, here's where I need to set up a boundary, here's what I need to ask for. All of a sudden, like your choices just array before your eyes and you can see what's going on. So tools and community. But it really, really helps to have the community where people are like, it's okay what you're talking about. It just, it's happened to me. It's happened to her. It's happened to him. It happens to us. And we love you anyway. And you can do this. So that's what to do when you have a setback. Don't get perfectionist. Sometimes I do the daily practice calls every 2 weeks. And if you sign up for that, you can join me in the call. I hope you will. Also, if you become a member, of course, you can keep coming to the free daily practice calls. And these are really great. We have one tomorrow, actually. Yeah, we have a daily practice call tomorrow. What time is that call, Rob? Well, he'll look it up and tell me. Yeah, he's looking it up. I'll tell you. We have a daily practice call tomorrow. They go on for like 2 hours. They're not recorded. Apologies to those of you who can't come live to those calls. If you become a member, you can come to daily practice calls in your time zone. So we have like dozens of them. But it's at 2 p.m. Pacific tomorrow. That's my daily practice call tomorrow. So we'll be there. Anyway, where was I going with this? I started thinking about when is the call. Well, anyway, come to the call. You come to the call and people are asking, oh, this is what it was. So people ask me there, they're like, I did the daily practice. I started yesterday and I'm still totally effed up. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's how it is. It's a process. And the first time you do the daily practice, what I would hope for is that you get emotional relief. And as you keep going, you'll start to get a change of perspective and some transformation. And some of the benefits that I got, I think it was a lot because I was meditating and we write so that we can handle continuing to meditate, and we meditate so that we can handle continuing the very specific writing exercise we do. And we do this to get free of fearful and resentful thinking, which I believe is the substance of CPTSD in our minds. It's like, fearful, resentful thoughts. Nobody likes me. I suck. This is no good. This is going to be a bad year. I'm all alone. Those thoughts need to go somewhere. And we know that trauma causes this neurological injury that makes it really hard to process thoughts and emotions. So they back up, they get backed up. And so the daily practice helps us just keep moving that stuff downstream. You name it. You don't have to do anything about it. You just name it, you ask for it to be removed, or you release it according to your belief in how things happen in the universe. And I'm more like a prayer person. So I ask God to remove my fears and resentments. Then you rest in a quiet meditation. It's just super simple. You just rest your mind and your brain knows what to do. Your brain is just sitting there ready to reorganize. Just like when you skin your elbow, your skin knows how to reorganize, and it just does its thing for a little while with a scab, and it heals and the scab comes off and you have skin again. Like, isn't that amazing? Well, your brain has a lot of that going on. And so we're accessing that with the daily practice. So this would be a good time if you haven't, Rob, if you wouldn't mind putting in the link to the membership there. Just want to remind everybody that right now we have like the cheapest possible annual membership of the year at $347 for a whole year. You have access to all my courses for a year, all my monthly webinars, live or recorded, for a year. And you get access to twice weekly group coaching calls and an invitation to our fabulous Facebook group just for members. It's a secret group. It's about 1,000 people in there. I don't think all of them are active, but there's some great people in there, and they're friendly and they help you, and you can ask for advice about stuff. But we don't give advice. So that's nice. Very relaxing. Nobody gives unsolicited advice. Sometimes, like right now, because we're having this sale, there'll be like a little influx of new members, and people may not know yet, and they'll forget. We have these guidelines. and they'll post a link from outside, or they'll start giving other people advice, and the moderators will very kindly go, "We don't put links to the outside. We don't give unsolicited advice." And we just emphasize, tell us your wins. How are you working on these techniques? And sometimes people, they'll have a challenge like, I'm going home to visit a parent who's sick, but they're the one who abused me, and I'm trying to figure out where should I stay. And your friends there can chime in on that. They get a variety of opinions, just like from friends who get it, who use the same tools as you, who have CPTSD just like you. So that's membership. Um, Before I take the next question, I wanted to mention we're shifting gears into, I just posted a video today, but I am telling people about bright line eating. It's this way of eating. And first of all, if any of you have an eating disorder, or you just go nuts when people talk about calorie restriction, like intentionally eating less in order to lose weight, just plug your ears. It doesn't apply to everyone. For one, I just have some weight to lose. And if you've been here for a while, like I've been doing this plan for 6 years, since summer 2017. And when I started doing bright line eating, I lost 40 pounds and my head cleared, and I was able to all of a sudden like really launch Crappy Childhood Fairy. And this weird thing happened where Crappy Childhood Fairy has gotten so successful that it's kind of made it hard for me to manage how I eat. Like it's sort of a new level of problem. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. But anyway, I've sort of had this like on again, off again relationship with this food plan. And when I'm on it, it so works for me. And the thing I just want to tell you about it is, so you don't eat sugar and flour. That's the gist of it. And if you're trying to lose weight, you kind of, you plan your meals, and it's not very much, it's less than, it's enough calorie deficit that you lose weight. And personally, it just feels really good to lose the extra weight. I do like that part. But I get these other benefits. I sleep so much better. My aches and pains go down. My brain fog clears up. And the obsession about like, what am I going to eat? And I wish I could eat those cookies, all that sugar craving and stuff. After a couple weeks, it goes down. I find it hard to give up the sugar for the first couple weeks, but it goes away. But you can, except for sugar and flour, you can eat just about anything. And it's very flexible. You can be a vegan or not. And, it's very flexible, healthy, and sustainable. And if you like what you weigh, you can eat more food and you don't lose weight, but it remains like this very healthy way of eating. So here's the thing. I'm really looking forward. I'm sort of in talks with the Bright Line Eating organization about having more of a two-way partnership right now. But Susan Pierce Thompson, who founded that, she's a neuroscientist, and she put out this little piece of research that she discovered that there's this food susceptibility that some of us have. Some people are born with it. Some people acquire it through trauma, but it makes it so when we eat sugar and flour, if you have this, I have it, you might not. When I eat sugar and flour, it just makes me want to eat more. I have this like addictive response. I don't know if you call it an addiction or not. I think so. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, if you give me a cookie, I do want to eat the whole package. And I might eat the whole package if I were alone with it. And or I might use a lot of self-control. And so for me, like getting free of that like desire to eat all that stuff and then feel guilty about it and blah, 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 and all the sizes of clothes that I have in my closet, for the different weights that go up and down. I just want to be done with it. I'm back with Bright Line Eating. And I put a video about that experience today up on YouTube. And there's a link in there for the food susceptibility quiz. And you can click that link and you can take the quiz, and it's a list of 10 questions to see if you have that sensitivity to sugar and refined carbohydrates. This is this other area of trauma healing, but we have, I don't know, 100 or 200 people in our community who do Bright Line Eating. And there's like a Bright Line Eating focused daily practice group every week in our membership program. And those of us who do both, we just think that if you want to get neurologically regulated, Bright Line Eating is the bomb. I mean, it just really, what it does is it keeps your insulin from spiking. And when your insulin doesn't spike, then your leptin, which is the hormone that responds to insulin, it can calm down a little bit. And that's the wound that I believe is the trauma wound. is the leptin response. It just doesn't work right. Leptin's supposed to come in and go, there, you had some sugar and flour, you're satisfied, you're full, go do something else. When that doesn't kick in response to insulin, then it's just like more, more, more. So it's like a injured function in your body. It's neurological. And I can't prove this yet, but I think it has a lot to do with the general neurological injury of childhood trauma. We know that, like, those of us who had trauma in childhood, we're like 50% more likely to have food and weight problems. And not all of that is explained by behavioral and psychological stuff. There's a physiological thing going on. So, yeah, it's a very serious thing, and I'm excited about the potential and the future for those of us who struggle with this issue to find healing for both the food and the general symptoms of complex PTSD kind of together. And we just find that, like, it's an easy way to eat, and you write down what you're going to eat and you talk to people every day, and it's not too different from what we do for the daily practice. So there's a very positive path ahead. Anyway, if you go in there, I'm an affiliate partner of Bright Line Eating. So if you go in and you sign up for that quiz, they will send you some emails to tell you they're starting their next 8-week boot camp. 8-week boot camp is where I started. It's like this really great program. They're starting it shortly, like later this week, I believe. And you can go, watch some videos about what the program is and read about it and decide if you want to go in. But it starts by taking that quiz. And Rob, if you haven't done it in a minute, would you put the link to the quiz there? You can click on it right here and just keep that tab open and take that quiz while you're on the call or after the call and see what you think, see what number you are. But if you want to guess what my number is, it's a scale of 1 to 10. I'm a 10. I'm a 10. I'm all the way up to 10, probably 11. I'm just really sensitive to sugar and refined carbohydrates, and I feel a lot better when I stop eating them. So guess what today is? It's the first day of the week. It's the first day of the month, January. It's the first day of the year 2024, and it's the first day of me being back on Bright Line Eating. And if you start doing it soon, then we can be like siblings. We can be in the same litter. I'd love for you to do that. All right. So sometimes people who have eating disorders or who are like, they really don't like, they just believe there should be intuitive eating. They get really mad at me for suggesting this, but I am not an intuitive eater. If I eat, I've tried it. My intuition says just keep eating the whole bag of nuts. So it's just not a thing that, different things work for different people. So I encourage you to check it out. All right. So next question, Tatum Prater. How do you work through a tendency toward codependency in relationships? I recognize that my CPTSD draws me to these relationships, but they're very unfulfilling for me over time. Yes, I have some videos. You can search it on the channel of signs that you're in a codependent relationship. And I feel really good about that video. I tend to be a little bit of a tough love fairy about codependence. I've noticed a lot of people are like, oh, well, the other person is really the one with the problem. I'm just codependent. And I'm like, no, codependence is a tragic condition where you take your energy and intentions for your life and you relocate it in somebody else's person. And then you try to make them give you back your happiness. And it's a dead end. It is unfulfilling. You're so right, Tatum. It's horrid. It doesn't just mean being in a relationship with an addict or alcoholic like some people think. And it doesn't mean dependent. It is this weird sort of, forgive me for saying it, but it's parasitic. It's like you latch on to this other person believing that if they will change, you will be happy. So how you work on it is, first of all, there's a dynamite 12-step program for that called Codependence Anonymous. And I always recommend 12-step programs because there's fellowship, real face-to-face people you can hang out with. There's people who will sponsor you for free. You can also work on it in my membership program and in my courses. The Connection Boot Camp has a lot to do with healing the disordered connection patterns that we have in relationships with other people because of the connection wound that we're sort of living with, because of just the kind of trauma-driven thinking that we have, the low self-esteem. There's just we have a whole little stack of wounds there that are driving us towards one sort of relationship pattern or another. Codependence is weird. It's like simultaneously like clinging and avoiding. You're avoiding yourself. You're sort of all over another person. And that's always the tension. I've been trying to I'm trying to finish the chapter on connection wounds today. So it's really on my mind. It's a very complicated thing. That's why the chapter is taking me so long. But, there's sort of these polar ends of how that connection wound shows up in us. We're either clinging or we're running away. And clinging would be like fear of abandonment, people pleasing, codependence. And then running away would be running away, avoidance and covert avoidance, where you're holding people at arm's length. But these things parallel attachment theory and attachment wounds. And, there is the sort of anxious, preoccupied, and then there's dismissive and avoidant on the two poles there. And then there's this like terrible hybrid that's the hardest one of all, which is called disorganized attachment, where you want the relationship so bad and then you run away from it and push the other person away. I think that a lot of us with CPTSD have a little bit of that disorganized tendency where it's just really hard to be close to people and we need it so very much. And you know, some of you are in good relationships right now, some are in terrible relationships. You know you should leave, but you're not ready. Some of you want so much to be in a relationship, but whatever you do, don't just take any old relationship that comes along. I have a dating course, all right? You can take, if you become a member, you have access to this. My dating course starts with like figure out, be very clear, write it down, like what do you actually want? What do you actually want? So if you're getting together with somebody who you think needs to be modified like a project, you're not with the sort of person you want. Or maybe you can change your expectations and you do like them. But I often tell the story of how I was dating this guy who didn't even have a decent pair of pants. And I had a job where I had to go to these fancy fundraisers and I wanted to bring him as my date. I had this idea. Really what it was I was embarrassed that I'd been single so long and I wanted to show everybody, look, I have a boyfriend. And I wanted him to come. But he had these dockers covered with paint that were hacked off with scissors and frayed at the ankles like Tom Sawyer or something. No, not Tom Sawyer, like Huckleberry Finn. And you couldn't take him anywhere. Also, he was on drugs and also a number of things. So I very codependently was like trying to make him be the guy that I had imagined he would be and hoped he would be and wanted everybody else to think he was, to basically make me okay, to make me look good and feel okay. But he wasn't that guy. He wasn't even close to that guy. So that was my doing. I sort of like, yeah, I did that. And it's very hard. Like once you're attached to somebody that you don't really approve of, like you have to go through the whole painful thing to get out of it. And if you have CPTSD and attachment wounds, which you almost certainly do if you're codependent, then leaving feels like it'll kill you. It's just, that abandonment melange is so threatening. Like, what will you do? How are you going to live through that intense onslaught of like grief and rage and panic that just takes over us so much worse than like a person who's not traumatized? We have a thing and it's hard. So one thing for anybody who's in a terrible relationship, including the person who asked this question, if it really sucks, get out and just tell yourself, I'm going to get abandonment melange. It's going to happen. This big wave that's like much more intense than it really is. It's going to tell me it's life and death. I better just hold on at all costs. I should put up with anything. I should do whatever it takes, to not be alone, because our trauma thinks we can't do it. And if you're in a violent relationship, there might be threats, meaning you can't do it, in which case you need help. And then a lot of people have financial reasons they can't leave, in which case you need help. But I just encourage you, take action now. Don't spend your life stuck in a relationship that's miserable or where you have to do mind tricks to try to convince yourself that you can make the person change, because you can't. You can't. All right. Kedra says, how do you tackle opening up or bringing up that you have trouble connecting with people to your loved ones? Could you give an example of what to say and when and how to bring it up? Oh, gosh. Kedra, I don't know if I can do like a cookie cutter version of this. It's so different for each person. So first of all, I don't think you have to tell everybody about it. You just do your best. But when you think it would help the person to understand that there's a little issue there, or when you feel it would help bring you closer, do it. But I would try to remove any expectation of how they feel about it or respond to it. Go slowly, test the waters. Because a lot of times when we tell loved ones stuff about our trauma, they don't tend to react very well. And it doesn't mean they don't love us and doesn't mean they're dumb, but it hurts when you tell somebody like something very close to your heart that you wanted them to understand. And they're just like, yeah, but doesn't everybody have trauma? And anyway, why don't you just get over it? Or you should just read this book or watch this video, right? We've heard them all. We've heard all the things that people who don't get it say. So sometimes what makes sense is to just show up in the relationship and keep working on your discomfort connecting with people the best you can. One way that I like to bring it up sometimes is in a way that has a little bit of humor in it, that I'm not putting any responsibility, but if I'm in some awkward situation and there's some sort of misunderstanding and I'll go, I'm sorry. The thing about me is I get this kind of thing mixed up sometimes. Will you tell me again? What did you mean by what you just said? And you just keep it light. I've never gotten very good responses when I told other people, the way you're talking to me is triggering me. You have to stop. Like that just doesn't tend to work. It feels true, but it doesn't tend to work. So it's sort of going back to the question before. If a person is so triggering for you that you can't handle it, you maybe don't want to be with that person. Or you may want to 100% prioritize dealing with your triggers. That's what we do in the Crappy Childhood Fairy program. We give up on trying to change other people. You decide, do I want this person in my life or not? Do I accept them as they are? Great. It's okay to ask people, hey, could you not smoke weed in my house? Or, what it is that your boundary is. Ask them. If they don't respect your boundary, then you have another decision on your hands about whether you want to be around them. But if you're just constantly harping on them, you said you wouldn't smoke weed in the house. Now you're smoking weed in the house. And do you know what everybody, the neighbors and the kids and blah, 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 and my lungs and my asthma and blah, 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 and the whole argument goes round and round. You're basically just throwing your energy away. If somebody is not going to listen to you or respect your boundaries. So a lot of what having healed relationships is you stop getting into relationships that are crap fit, that are not what are okay with you. Like it's an unacceptable situation. I'm not saying for everybody, some people are absolutely fine about weed in the house or what have you. But whatever boundaries you have, your boundary is your willingness to walk away. It's not for them. You can ask people and it's rude of them not to care about your boundaries, but what are you doing with somebody who doesn't care about your boundaries? That's kind of what it comes. That's the tough love part of it. So when I make videos about this, there's often comments that are like, you don't even care, Miss Runkle. You don't understand. And it's like, I understand. I've been like everything I talk about that's like messed up. I know about it because I lived it, right? I do understand. And I understand that it's tricky and that that you just can't control people. But one of the best pieces of advice I ever got was, it was like a little criticism really. But it was after my first marriage and I was complaining on and on and on about my ex-husband. This was in the first couple of years after the divorce and the kids were little. It was very stressful. I was so angry. And I was just like, and then he did this, and can you believe it? He did that. And this friend of mine said, well, you married him. And it was like a slap on the face. And I was shocked at first and angry about like, why would you say something so insensitive? But it was so helpful because finally my attention came to the thing. Like this happened because I married him, because I made that choice. I actually pursued him for that. I actually insisted that we get married. I mean, I was there. And then I was like, and how is it that he could turn out to be who he actually was all along? Well, because he was who he was all along. And I wasn't actually okay with that. I just mentally made this construct that I thought of what I actually wanted. And then I just tried to like persuade him by any means necessary to be what I wanted. Well, it didn't work. And it was like, it wasn't the first time I had played that game. So it was a huge piece of my healing from CPTSD to really like accept, like, you can't do that. And I still don't totally get it. My husband will agree. I'm sure I'll be like, like, really? He'll be like, look, this is how I am. I'm like, but, okay. I knew who he was. We dated for 5 years. Hey, and guess what? Our 10th marriage anniversary is coming up January 18th. Kind of a miracle. And I'd say our marriage is stronger than ever. So, woohoo. So I'm really happy about that and grateful that that happened in my life. One of these days, I think I might make a video. I've sort of talked about this before, but it's helped me a lot to have a relationship that's stable. It's really helped me as a person a lot. And a lot of my potential has been able to blossom because the rug isn't being pulled out from me all the time by the ups and downs of of a terrible relationship or my terrible attempts at having one. So 10 years married, 5 years before that dating. Very grateful. All right, Erica's question. Could you briefly discuss some cognitive issues from CPTSD? How trauma affects thinking? Holy moly. Yeah, it sure does. Well, I've been learning a little bit about the neurobiology of trauma. And so there are, neurological reasons why our thinking can't fully happen right. For one thing, we go under stress. People with a history of trauma in childhood have this like brain reaction when they get stressed out where the left front cortex starts to go inactive. The right front cortex, which is emotion, gets highly active. And there's this whole interchange with the amygdala and the hippocampus and these organs within the brain that are responsible for your stress response that start giving out dopamine or adrenaline, and all these chemicals come out. Well, with CPTSD, we get the wrong amounts of all that stuff. We're getting this like crazy speedball cocktail that can make us very intense, very paranoid, or we can see with rose-colored glasses and not be able to see the red flags coming. And the more I hear about this, the more I just feel like exhausted and a little bit angry with all the psychology stuff that I used to like try to learn and adhere to and be good at, of just like, I'll just think positively. I can't, I have CPTSD. So I just, I stumbled on the daily practice, which lets me write my negative thoughts on paper and ask for them to be removed. And James Pennebaker at the University of Texas in Austin did 35 years of research on this, something like this called expressive writing. And recently, Andrew Huberman, if you listen to the Huberman Lab podcast, which is like all about neurobiology, how you can do life hacks and brain hacks to be much more amazing than me. But he did a whole episode on the Pennebaker research about expressive writing. And I worked in healthcare for 30 years, and there are very few silver bullets, things that just solve things out there. Very few. But this is one of them. And so Pennebaker's method, it's a little different than ours. In his, you go in and you write about the worst thing that ever happened to you for 15 to 30 minutes, 4 days in a row. And, people were reporting this incredibly positive experience. So they measured, and people actually, like, their mental health improves, their physical health improves, and the effect lasts for months after this 4-day period that they use it. So why I prefer the daily practice and want to get it clinically evaluated, and I want Andrew Huberman to talk about it too, hopefully. For people with trauma, if we were to go for 4 days going on the worst thing that ever happened, it could really tip our boats over. We get very dysregulated. It could sort of open the floodgates. We have this thing of like healthy compartmentalization where it's not necessarily healthy for us to just go, just here, genie's out of the bottle. Here's the worst thing that ever happened to you. Dwell on it, and that's that we're a special case. That's not always the safe to do or the best thing to do. And the other thing is doing that all by yourself. We have a community where we can do our writing work in and share with each other about it. Rob, would you mind? We have a sale right now if you want to come into our community on membership, and Rob will put the link in there. But having people that you do this with, we do it on Zoom calls in small groups. We have big groups. There'll probably be 300 plus people on my daily practice call tomorrow. That's at 2:00 Pacific time. And a whole bunch of us together, even on Zoom, feels great. And sometimes we get together, like we had a holiday party for the staff of Crappy Childhood Fairy and some friends of Crappy Childhood Fairy. And the whole party begins with sitting down in my living room in a circle and writing and meditating. And it was so beautiful. And the party is just like so nice when everybody's kind of like freed themselves of their churning, fearful, resentful thoughts. And we're just lighthearted and we can connect a little better. We had a great time. So writing writing is scientifically proven to help to process the stuck. That's the thing. CPTSD is an injury to your ability to connect. It's an injury to your ability to process emotions and thoughts as well. So you need tools that help you just move that downstream, and it's very freeing. And so that I just very much recommend that. That's where a lot of the cognitive issues come from. What you see downstream in the symptoms that come downstream from having a lot of trauma in childhood is a higher rate. I'm just saying we have a higher risk of this. It doesn't mean you're going to get it, but higher rates of things like dementia, learning disabilities, memory problems, ADHD, inability to pay attention. Those are some of the cognitive problems. They're very serious. So if you're having any of those problems, even if you didn't have trauma, I would say do the daily practice. When I started the daily practice, I probably had active adult onset PTSD, but my mind was so, like, freaked out all the time. I couldn't really read a paragraph. I would read it over and over again, and I couldn't remember who I was talking to on the phone. I was really out of it. And within, like, 2 weeks, zoom, my focus just came in. I could sit through a whole 1-hour business meeting and hear everything that was said with it full attention, and then raise my hand and go, "Well, I have something to say." People were all of a sudden, my career just took off because I could hear everything. I could pay attention to what was happening. And when I could pay attention for a whole hour, I saw how much everybody's mind is like popcorn. They're just like all over the place. They change the subject. You try to tell them something important and they go, "That reminds me of this other thing." And I became somebody who could really put my attention on things. And that is power in the world. That's like to be able to choose how you think, what you will think about, what you will do with your time is an incredible thing. I mean, I was born with a lot of disadvantages, and CPTSD was one of the big ones. And I was able to overcome a lot. I was a welfare kid. My parents didn't tell me about college. I had to figure out a lot of stuff for myself. But I'll tell you, the daily practice like put me on a level playing field to catch up. And I did. I went ahead. I finished. I managed to finish college but with ulcers and stuff before the daily practice. But after that, I ended up like getting a master's degree, which I don't use. I had an idea that I should have one, but I started 3 businesses since then, and just gradually I've been able to express who I really am in my life. I'm not limited by my trauma so much. And why I get so excited on New Year's every year is because when you're getting more and more regulated neurologically every day through using these tools and being in the courses and connecting, having good friends who also have CPTSD and they get it and they support you, then you know that every year is going to be a better year than the last one. Okay, well, sometimes something really terrible happens, but when you're getting more re-regulated, even your worst day is better, even your worst day is better than your best day used to be when you were dysregulated all the time. Like the stuff that really makes a person happy can start to come into your life. And I really would love for you guys to have that this year, is to finally be able to, release all that stressy trauma thinking and have a clear mind so that you remember who you are and you remember what you came into this world to do, what you're trying to create, what your gifts are. That's what we work on here. And then also so that, that intense side of you can kind of relax a little bit and you can let people in. And when they trigger you, you can like have a pause there before you push them out of your life or freak out and latch onto them. And you can start to form actual, closeness with people. You can get clear about what you're looking for in your life so that you can take steps that require a bit of courage, making phone calls, going on dates, whatever it is for you. You can get the courage to start asking for what you want and trying things out. And you can have a way to get comfort and ease when it all just gets to be too much. Because when you stretch your life from keeping it very small so you can handle your triggers towards making it a little bigger, it means you're going to get triggered. You're going to get these triggers on the end. And when I say trigger, keep in mind, I don't mean how some people say, "I'm triggered. I don't like what you said." It's not what I mean. I mean, a trigger that triggers neurological dysregulation. It could be a loud noise, feeling rejected, feeling hurried. We have a number of common triggers. Everybody has unique ones. Sometimes you don't even know what happened. Like I get triggered when I'm getting my hair cut. I don't know why. I just, I'll start to not feel my hands. I get dysregulated. It's getting better. So you get triggered, but you're going to be less triggered. And if you could be 50% less triggered than you normally are in certain situations, would it change what happens in your life? It would. If there were just a couple things in your life that could get halfway better in the triggery CPTSD reaction, would it make your life better? It would. And I'm telling you, if you can make one thing like 50% better, it just opens this huge space in your life where something else can get better. So you start with one thing, like I'm able to keep my living room tidy. And then that sort of opens a space in your mind and you're like, you know what? I'm going to look for a better job. And then doing that opens another space and you're like, "You know what I'm even gonna do? I think I'm gonna, like, get online and find somebody to go on a date with." If you're really, really out on a limb. But, that's how we build a life is we do something we've never done before. We do something that's outside our comfort zone. It doesn't get any bigger unless we do that. And how do we get outside our comfort zone safely? A little at a time using the daily practice. So I would love for you to come in and use that, and join my call tomorrow. Surprise me. Come to the call and get in the chat and say, "I was there. I was at the live on YouTube yesterday." And you said to so if you wanna come to that call, you have to sign up for the daily practice course. So take that. And I'm just my eye is glancing at the chat. I regret I can never, like, read everything there, but I just saw the word plasticity. Isn't it great? Like, we can heal. Very little of our trauma is unfixable. Not that we can. I mean, nobody's like a saint or a superhero where you're just like, "Ta-da, it never happened." It's like it happened. And I always say some of our wounds are like, maybe like an amputation. Some of our wounds are just a scrape. You can't grow a new leg. You can gr you c your skin can recover. But even when it's not even when there's been a loss, like, I'm just gonna say it, the greatest loss is if you didn't get loved properly as a kid, you can never be loved as a child again. Your childhood, that loving childhood that you needed and hoped for is never coming. You don't get to have the loving childhood, but you get to have a loving now. And it might take a little learning. It might take a little extra effort to go that far in your life, but that's really what we're headed for. We want to become our full and real selves, and we want to learn to love other people and to be loved. And then you have those things. You are yourself and you're loved and you can be loved. You've got it made. Now, being ourselves when we're still all like full of triggers and we lash out at people, it's like it's not inherently good. Like there's always murals like just be you. It's like, "Oh, you don't want that, I assure you." But being ourselves when we've healed those rough edges, when we've gotten a little more social grace, like a little more sensitivity and connectivity with other people where we can feel when we're sort of making somebody uncomfortable and stop talking right there and be like, "I'm sorry, did I say something that made you uncomfortable?" Woo, everything, the whole trajectory of your life can change. You can not blow up the relationship. You can go forward. Yeah, people are mentioning the inner child. A lot of people do that. They conceive of this as reparenting. I not to just disparage that. I don't I just I've never like resonated with that. It does make sense to me though. I haven't had to reparent myself. I just have to, like be honest and be sensible with myself, and eat healthy food. Rob, speaking of healthy food, Rob, will you throw the link into the food susceptibility quiz? I'll say one more thing about that before we wrap up. But I need to take care of what I eat. I need to take care of my body. I need to sleep. I need to pay attention to what is moral and good behavior. Like, don't lie. Don't trash people behind their back. Don't blame people for things that aren't their fault and then gaslight them into accepting responsibility. Among the nice little treats that I used to give to people close to me. It's wrong. I had to work a lot on my behavior. And so I have more sensitivity, more consideration now, and I'm more free then to be myself. With the daily practice, though, I have this double insurance because when I am myself, sometimes I am offensive. Sometimes I just say stuff. I hurt people's feelings. I alienate them. I forget to invite one person to the dinner and they knew about the dinner and they got their feelings hurt. So I can apologize. With the daily practice, I can be more aware when I've made a mistake and feel comfortable embracing what I can do to set the whole thing right. And that's another thing. I did not learn that at home. Like in my family, when people did something wrong, you just denied it to the death. And then for good measure, you criticized everybody else to the death, whatever it took. So I have a whole new way of living now. And everything that I've learned along the way, I teach in my courses. I would love to have you come in. We have a membership sale right now. It's $347 US dollars. If you want to come in for a whole year and you have the courses, all my courses, you have my webinars, which I do monthly. You have free access to those, including the recordings for those for a whole year. And you have access to twice monthly group coaching calls with me. And you have access to our secret Facebook group for members, which is super cool. It's where you can make friends who are walking this path of healing, and you can find people to do the daily practice with. We have several daily, peer-led daily practice calls every day there, and it's where the action happens. And it's kind of the community where I hang out more and talk to people. So we would love to see you there. So, yeah, there it is. I see it's in the links there. The end of the year sale, $152 off. The normal price is $499. And also, I wanted to tell you about the link for the food susceptibility quiz. I'm just going to be talking about that this week. They've got this 8-week boot camp coming up at Brightline Eating. That 8-week boot camp was so life-changing for me to like find out a way to eat that helps me feel really good and stay neurologically regulated. And it didn't hurt that a bunch of weight came off. I was pretty happy about that. So I'm back on it. I sort of, kind of lost my bright lines, as they say. And I'm back on it right now. Maybe you want to get on it too. And we have even in our membership community, we have some people who do it too. It's not related to Crappy Childhood Fairy, except that they're an affiliate partner. And so we have a link to the susceptibility quiz that just went up there in the chat. So would love to see you there if that suits you. See what you think. Very common that we're sensitive to sugar and refined carbohydrates, and it kind of makes us loopy and prone to overeating. And you can actually change that. It's pretty cool. So with that, I will say goodbye. I stayed on a little longer today because we had that glitch at the beginning where I didn't have sound. Who knows why? But I'm so happy you came and joined me. This is a nice big call. We went up over 800 people at the same time there. How nice. And come take the free daily practice course and come to the call tomorrow. There's a free call too. It's going to be 2 hours, and you can ask questions, and I open your mic and we talk, and your camera can be on, and it's not just this one-way thing. And it's lovely. Love to see you there. All right. Maybe you'll be a member. Our sale ends tomorrow for the membership. So just keep that in mind. All right. Mwah. Bye, everybody.